All right. Well, I'm going to kind of do this just as I go, since I do not have any kind of professional editing software or anything else. So you're going to be doing this with me. What I've done so far is I've got a rock, and this is the core drill bit that I have drilled this out with, and this was a 8mm, which happens to be what this little thing is, and it is a really tight fit, which is what I wanted, because I want this to be really snug so I don't have to use glue on it. But what I am going to do is I'm going to run a stainless steel screw in from the back side to hold it, because this here, if it popped loose, it would try to float. So I want to make sure it doesn't. So that's my, can't see much. Well, take my word for it. I can see it. It's about 1 inch thick. So I have a number of not long enough screws there. Way too long screws there. Oh, shit. And if you pick up a package of nails like this, make sure you don't pick it up upside down. So I'm told. Because these are stainless and not magnetic, so then you have to pick up every one of these little nails by hand. So I may not be putting a screw in there like I thought. But this is pretty tight. So what I think I'm going to do is let that dry out. And I'm actually going to leave it in here. I'm going to see if I can spin it down 1/2 turn here, so it's good and tight. Let this dry, and I'm actually going to use super glue and put it in the backside only, so it'll leach into the wood and get around the stone right there, and kind of just bond on the bottom side. Because the only screws that I have that I thought were going to work, and then I realized they're too short, are these ones that are about 3/4 of an inch, which goes to the importance of checking before you start. Oops. I'll show you here. Oops. There. Stainless steel screw. Okay. Try to line this up kind of. Oh, there you go. You can see it only gets that far, and basically the wood is only pushed in about to there, because they did not leave me much work with on that wood. So I could probably get it in there. Actually, I definitely could get it in there, but if I started screwing it, it's going to swell the wood out first and probably crack it right through the center, and then split the 2 halves of the wood, and then it's going to break right up top here, and it's all going to fall out. I know that from experience, and so that's why I'm not putting anything in it. The only thing I thought about doing was, since this is so tight, is putting a single stainless nail, starting it in there and running it in a little ways, and I probably am going to do that. Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do that. We use one of these stainless nails. Okay, stainless nail. And this is just what I am going to do. Okay. Now. Okay, so you can kind of see how deep that is right there. Ah, shit. There. It's touching the wood right there. And since I've got to be really careful about hitting this, I don't know if I can do this. I might have to prop this up and do it with something else. You know what? Here's what you can do. If you're short of hand, take some filter floss or a little piece of foam or something like that. Make a little rope out of it, kind of. Wrap it around your nail. Now I put the tip of this right into the wood, and I'm going to hold the back of the nail right here. Now I'm going to use my tweezers. I'm going to shove filter floss down inside the gap, and since that's going to take up some of the space, it's going to keep the nail from moving around. I'll show you why in a second. Because I've got a neat little tool. This is a little spring-loaded hammer. They use it to, well, some people use it to break and enter, but it's made to pop hinge pins out really fast out of doors and in tight places. But it also works to pop little trim nails in like this. So I'm putting one finger in the underside of the crook right here to stop the wood from moving. I'm using 2 fingers on this textured part to kind of hold it steady. And I'm using a couple fingers on the other hand to pull this thing back, because when the spring slams forward, the little weight on the back will hit that. And as long as it hits just hard enough, it'll pop that nail right into the wood down there. And I only want to drive it a little ways. I want to leave the rest of it sticking out. Because hitting it with a hammer is not going to do a lot of good. But this puts a lot of force in one tiny spot, and that might be enough to drive this. I know the camera's moving on it and stuff like that, and it's hard to see this. But I've got it driven just a little bit so far. This is really hard to do. That one bit pretty good. That one bit really good. I think one more good one. I'm gonna go just flush, so one more probably. Actually, let me show you real quick first. Here's what I've got. Kind of from the side-ish. You can see it's barely sticking up. That's what I'm going for, is I want to drive it down where it's not sticking up at all, hardly, or at all. There, it's barely a bump now. So now I'm gonna poke in this last little bit of cotton, or if it won't poke in, trim it off. Actually, I think this is polyester, not cotton. Now that I think about it. Which probably makes more sense. But the nail did not come through the top. And I guarantee you that is not going to move now. But now we have one nail into the wood We got it surrounded by the polyester fibers. So, I hear nails falling as I stand up. That's great. Come over here. Got some super glue yesterday. So we've got that kind of a matrix with the one nail surrounded by the polyester fiber. And that packed in there nice and tight. It's almost like a wad of steel wool. And this super glue that I'm going to add is going to harden all that into one mass. Plus, the adhesive nature of super glue is going to stick to the stone, it's going to stick to the nail, it's going to stick to the wood once it gets up there, and it's going to soak into the wood. It's going to bond all this stuff into one big mass. But the way the polyfill stuff here is fibrous, it's just going to sit here and draw the super glue in, or it should. I'm going to sit here and kind of soak it in, dab it with the tip of the bottle, and kind of saturate it. Now, I'm using regular liquid super glue. I am not using gel. Gel has its place, but so does regular liquid. And for this, I wanted regular liquid. Actually, yeah, see, this is my problem with super glue. I have a little bit and it dries up. I got these big bottles last night of Loctite. These are 0.70 ounces. It ran $8.80 or something like that. But if you look at the amount that a regular tube of super glue has, this has about 8 bottles worth. Now, you can see, I'm trying to block my face so the camera doesn't try to pick up on it. Now you can see how the super glue has coated everything right there. As it hardens, it's going to turn the entire thing rock solid. It's probably going to turn white as well. And that is why we did not put any on the top, because I don't want anything like white crystals showing through. Because now it's going to be a rock. It's going to be wood. It's going to, I mean, granted, trees don't really grow straight out of rocks in nature, but if this is showing through the substrate, nobody's going to care. You can put a little glue on here, sprinkle some sand, and this will look like a tree coming out of sand. You can put moss around here, you know, so on and so forth. But anyway, that is my video. This is still liquid right now. I don't know how long this will take exactly to dry, but I guess we'll find out. Now I've got super glue all over my hands. How about that? A trick I've used in the past, if you want to make something really, really strong with super glue, especially if it's already wet, paper towel. Put that on there, let it sit. Wait till it sucks in and everything dries, and then just rip off the extra paper towel. And this fiber on top of everything else is almost like fiberglass. And it will just make a hard layer of everything. And it looks like fiberglass when it's done. Except it's cyanoacrylic instead of polyester resin. And instead of fibered glass, it's paper. You know, paper fiber. But anyway, that is it for this one. I do have one that I'm going to make, and I think that one is going to be a blast to do. I'll go ahead and show you. I've taken a couple pictures, but this is one. I started out core drilling a big rock, but this one here, this one's going to go in a 20 long. It's a big old hole, but you can see where I glued this one, glued that one. Yeah, you can see the crack on my ceiling too. That's great. But I tacked it with just a little bit of glue. I'm going to end up filling in that entire open cavity behind the wood and the rock right there. I'm going to fill that in with silicone, and then I'm going to sprinkle sand on top so it looks a little bit more natural. And then everything that sticks down from the bottom is just going to be like that. I'm going to drive a couple of small nails in there just to keep stuff from shifting around. Those little stainless nails. But they're going to be driven in there from a couple directions. And then I'm going to put some silicone, like a ring of it, on the bottom and squish the nails into that, just so we've got some extra stability, because that is a big old honking piece of wood. Now, I forgot I could set the phone up there. But this, I mean, I'm a big guy. But this, I had to cut this branch off of this side over here, and I drilled a hole right in there and poked that one back inside, so this would fit to a 20 long, and it's gonna look cool. But anyway, that's it for now.